Hey everybody, Al Fragnoli, Zach Sooty, League of Leaders today. We were set to talk with Natalie Clark, Senior Manager of Special Events with the Miami Dolphins, but unfortunately there was a conflict in her schedule and she was unable to join us today. We do look forward to chatting with her a little bit down the road, but for the time being today, we decided we're going to talk instead a little bit about a couple current topics going on in sports. The first we want to touch on is the NBA playoffs. And LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers just closed out the Denver Nuggets last night in convincing fashion. They won by 10. A lot of close, tight games, but they ultimately won the series in 5 games. LeBron James making his 10th appearance to the NBA Finals, one with the Lakers. This is his first season with the Lakers, first NBA Finals appearance with the team. He made it to 4 appearances with the Miami Heat, winning 2 titles, and he's been 5 different occasions with the Cleveland Cavaliers, once in his first stint and then 4 straight seasons in his second go-around with the team winning 1 championship there. So, Zach, talk a little bit about LeBron James. We always hear the comparison with him and Michael Jordan. Do you think he's the greatest player of all time? He's certainly, I think, worth being considered in that discussion. What are your thoughts?
I think LeBron James is, in my opinion, one of the most complete players. Maybe one of the best complete players of all time. I mean, rebounding, assists. He has an advantage with his size, speed. So I think absolutely. I think from the greatest NBA player ever to play, I think Jordan is by far remains the best ever. He was, and I think it's because the uniqueness in which he played. His style was different. I still think it had that. I don't know. There was an elegance to his game at times where it was just smooth and sometimes poetic. The way he moved, and he was a winner. He was a competitor, and he was a winner. So for me, Jordan has always been the greatest NBA player that I've had the fortunate opportunity to watch. LeBron, very complete player, probably right behind Jordan in my opinion, and probably the most complete when it comes to all around stats. And he doesn't have the winning record in the finals. I don't believe that Jordan had, but he's also been there 10 times in modern day basketball. I think that's pretty remarkable. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, all good points that you mentioned there, Zach. I don't know. I always thought from day one that Michael Jordan was hands down the best player of all time, and you mentioned he was just very fun to watch, and he's incredibly talented. I think LeBron James is worthy of being up in consideration for there. I know he's jumped around from team to team. I know the Lakers have got a lot of talent around him. The Miami Heat were certainly loaded with talent when he was with them for those couple seasons. But when you think about it, the Cleveland Cavaliers, in my opinion, were not a really good organization without LeBron James. And when he was there, he was able to really, really turn the organization around. He made all the difference in the world. He at times was a one-man show. I remember vividly in his first stint, I believe it was maybe the 2007 Eastern Conference Finals, 2006, somewhere in that time frame, where he was playing the Detroit Pistons, and the Pistons went up 2-0, took a quick lead, winning both games at home, went onto the road, lost the next 2, so the Cavs tied up that series. They came back to the Palace for Game 5, and it was a back-and-forth game. It looked like the Pistons were going to pull it out, and then LeBron James scored the last 25, 26 points of that game for his team, and ultimately pulling off that Game 5 victory in overtime. And he single-handedly won that game, won that series for his team. Now, they went on to play the Spurs in the finals, and I think they got swept 4-0. But I still believe that I think he's got to be right up there neck and neck. And if he continues to play a few more seasons, goes to a couple more finals appearances, maybe with the Lakers here, and ultimately wins 2 or 3 more titles, I think he takes over as the greatest of all time. I don't know. Again, without him, When you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers without LeBron James, they're an incredibly different team. And I think he makes all the difference in the world. I know you can say the same about Michael Jordan not being on the Chicago Bulls, but I don't know. I'm gonna say they're neck and neck right now, pretty close. Maybe Jordan has the slight edge, but we'll see how they end out their career.
So Al, you mentioned one thing that could put him, above Michael Jordan, and you mentioned him playing a few more years, getting a few more championships. When I think of comparing players, I don't I don't count longevity, because I think you look at their peak, because when they were there at their best, no matter how long it was of a time frame, I just think Jordan was better in that peak career. Because longevity, I mean, I don't know. I wish Jordan wouldn't have retired and went to baseball, and that was so to compare that kind of. I don't like to do that. I think if you compare their 3 or 4 best season, who was at their best, doesn't matter for how long, but who was the best player, and for me that's always been Jordan. I think at his peak, Jordan was always the best, and I do agree. LeBron James is the most complete player, and I think longevity may be the greatest. But when you talk about just sheer talent for a short period of time, Jordan, I think, blows so many people away. But I also grew up watching Jordan on a regular basis, so
Sure.
I grew up on Jordan, so it was very he impacted my life watching the NBA. So huge Jordan fan.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I watched a lot of Michael Jordan as a kid, and he really ultimately was the reason that I fell in love with the sport and really enjoyed watching basketball. 90s basketball I think was fantastic. There were a lot of good competitive teams. With the New York Knicks, the Boston Celtics in the early 90s, Detroit Pistons early 90s, a lot of Lakers as well. A lot of good basketball going on in the 90s. It was physical, hard-fought games. But I think this discussion is going to go on for a long time. It'll probably go on for the next couple of years until LeBron retires, and then post LeBron retirement, we'll always be trying to compare and see who is the better player of all time. And it's an interesting discussion, that's for sure. So.
Yep. So I want to talk real quick about his. We mentioned longevity, his 10th championship. You got Bill Russell, 12 championships, went 11-1 with the Celtics. His teammate Sam Jones, 11 appearances, 10-1, and then from there it's only Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and LeBron James, and I think with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he wasn't a dominant player, but he was a winner. Bill Russell, obviously a winner. Sam Jones, obviously a winner with the Celtics. Do you think LeBron James gets to 12, 13, 14 championships?
Well, that's hard to say. He's 36, 37, right? In that
37,
ballpark.
I believe.
Yeah, in that ballpark right now. So that, maybe he's got another 3-4 years left. Maybe 12, maybe if the core of the Lakers stays together, but 13, 14, I think is pushing it, because that would be saying that they're going to go to the NBA Finals every single year, for the next 3 or 4 years until he retires. And I don't see that happening. I don't. The West is usually very deep and very loaded. There's a lot of talent out there, and a lot of young talent too, and a lot of good teams. I think the Eastern Conference, if he was over there, it'd be easier for him to, make 3 or 4 straight seasons to the NBA Finals. But in the West, I'm going to say probably not. If he retires 4 years from now, I'll say he'll tie Bill Russell and get 12, but I don't think he's going to get 13 or 14.
I don't know, Al. He could play till 45. Maybe. The guy's in shape.
He sure can. He could be Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady will
go
50, so.
The guy's remarkable, and he doesn't seem to have injuries that linger for too long. I think he seriously could play for 8 years. I don't know. I watched Uncle Drew last night, so maybe he could play till he's 75. I don't know.
He is an incredible talent. I think we all can agree on that. He's a phenomenal athlete, a fantastic NBA basketball player. So
moving on, NHL playoffs. We're in the Stanley Cup Finals. Game 5 last night in the double OT. Game 4 went into OT. Tampa Bay leads 3-2. Great series so far. We got Game 6 tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Do you think Tampa Bay wins the Stanley Cup tomorrow night, or do you think Dallas forces a Game 7? And if so, who do you got?
Great question. So this has been a fantastic series. I think a majority of the series Tampa has outplayed the Dallas Stars, but the Dallas Stars are an incredibly gritty team. We always talk about grit with leadership and everything. They've got a lot of grit, Zach. And if you've watched this series, for everybody who's watched this series, they don't give up. I mean, they've been up in a couple games, blown leads, come back. They play very hard, and I think a lot of that is due to the guys who scored all their goals yesterday, all 3 goals, 2 by Corey Perry and 1 by Joe Pavelski, both veteran players that came over to the Stars this past season. They both have a lot of playoff experience. Corey Perry, long time with Anaheim Ducks, and Joe Pavelski, long time player with the San Jose Sharks. So they both have had a lot of success. They both know how to play postseason hockey, and I think they have helped shape and mold that Dallas Stars team to get them over the hump. They've been competitive the last few years and have made the postseason, but have not made it to the conference finals or the Stanley Cup finals for that matter. So I think the Dallas Stars are in the Stanley Cup finals for the sole reason of bringing Corey Perry and Joe Pavelski over to this team in the offseason. Ultimately, to answer that question, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Game 7, and I think every single sports fan would love to see a Game 7 because those are the most exciting. But I do believe that the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to close it out tomorrow night, Game 6. They've been better for most of the series, and I think that they'll ultimately find a way to win the series, win the Stanley Cup. And what an exciting Stanley Cup final it's been. What a great postseason it's been. The bubble has worked, playing games in Edmonton and Toronto. And it's been exciting to watch these NHL playoffs, but I think Tampa closes it out. What are your thoughts, Zach?
I think Tampa Bay is going to win it, no matter if it's Game 6 or Game 7. I would love to see Dallas force a Game 7, and it's only one game at that point. A couple lucky bounces, it could go any way. So, I hope it forces a Game 7. I think Game 7 would be good for hockey. I think it'd be good for the NHL. So I'm hoping Dallas pulls out Game 6, forces Game 7, and I'm always one for an upset. I'd love to see Dallas, win Game 7. And you mentioned, grit. We talk about that. I love when gritty teams win. It just makes it, for me, more fun to watch. So I hope we see a Game 6 be forced to Game 7, and hopefully Dallas pulls it off. But my gut's telling me Tampa Bay is going to win it, whether it's Game 6 or Game 7.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think Tampa pulls it out, finds a way to get it done. And as you mentioned, Game 7s are always exciting. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to say Tampa closes it out tomorrow night in a very good, hard-fought, competitive game. And we'll go from there. We'll see what happens. But anyway, this wraps it up for our chat here. Join us this Tuesday for Hot Topic Tuesday, and tune in next Sunday as we talk to Josh Drees of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And there's a very good possibility that he's going to be incredibly excited celebrating a Tampa Bay Lightning Stanley Cup championship. So thanks for tuning in, everybody.